You know, it's funny how life works sometimes. When I started building my virtual assistant team, little did I know that I was about to stumble upon incredible freebies without even knowing it. So, if you too hired a virtual assistant recently, did you know that you are also very likely getting these perks for free?
Nice.
Well, technically, they're not free. They're built into the price of what you paid your virtual assistant, but the point is you hired your VA for the main reason of handing someone off your tasks, but you are also getting some or all of these perks for free. And I discovered these along the way. Number one, the free perk you are getting is computer equipment. First things first, let's talk about computer equipment because when I hired my virtual assistant team, they brought their own top-notch gadgets already. They had the equipment with them because they would work remotely. And it was like an unexpected bonus. Why was it a bonus? It's because I didn't have to buy it for them. So question, what about those companies or employers buying equipment for their VA or at least providing their VA with prepayment or a budget to buy a computer or a laptop? That's a good question. When an employer or a company or a client does this, it means that they hired their VA with an exclusive contract. That said, the VA cannot use the computer equipment or the laptop for other jobs or gigs. In my case, when I built my team and hired team members, I required them to dedicate a specific number of hours, depending on their individual contracts. And the rest of their day, they can either get other gigs or find a second job, which I know they'll use their own laptops and computers for. See the difference? If you want your VA to only work for you, then it's ideal for you to actually purchase their work equipment for them. But if you're fine with your VA having a second, third, or even a fourth client and the occasional one-time project client, then it just makes sense for them to own their equipment because they will use it as a means of earning money from other sources. Because let's face it, if you're a virtual assistant, it's very rare that you'll get hired by just one client, and that client can already pay for all your needs, your rent, car payments, medical bills, insurance bills, etc. Unless they hired you full-time and they own your time period, some virtual assistants prefer this setup. So they opt to get hired by an agency or a full-time employer who will buy their work equipment for them. Unless you want your VA to only work for you exclusively and you can afford to buy their work equipment for them for any security reasons, then go right ahead and do so. In many cases, a lot of clients and employers are benefiting from VAs who have their own work equipment that they use for tasks. The result? I didn't have to spend a fortune on expensive computers or the latest technology. They came fully equipped, ready to support me and my business.
Hold up.
Sidebar, I actually also hired virtual assistants who are in-house. At the time I am making this video, I have 3 team members who are working with me here in the office. Because they work with me in the office, it was my obligation to buy their computers for them. If you have questions about what's better, whether it's to hire in-house or remote virtual assistant, drop your comment below and I'll make a video to answer it.
Come on.
Let's go to the next one. And the next one is internet. You get free internet. And I quickly realized that my virtual assistant team relied on a fast and reliable internet connection to work their magic. But guess what? I got to enjoy the same seamless internet experience without extra cost because my virtual assistants already had internet connections in their respective home offices or work locations. I didn't have to pay for it. And that's the ultimate perk right there. But hang on, did you know that anyone who doesn't subscribe to our channel doesn't get notified when we have new videos? I know, crazy, right? So you know what to do, and we're back. Next is office space. Now, here's where it gets really interesting when you say you get free office space. Since many of my virtual assistant team members work remotely, I didn't have to worry about finding additional office space or dealing with, rental expenses. They had their own cozy corners in their homes where they work their magic. And I had the freedom to work from wherever I pleased myself. It was like expanding my office without, lifting a finger. Those team members who work remotely also has an option to not work out of their homes, their rooms, or their home offices. If they thought they could use a change in environment, they only had to take their laptop with them to go to a nearby co-working cafe or a shared office in their local area. As a virtual assistant, I can tell you right now that the change in environment often helps when you find yourself in a creative rut. Besides, the co-working spaces or cafes have better coffee.
Delicious.
So office space, that's the big perk right there because you didn't have to rent the space where your remote team members would work in. You're saving a ton of overhead cost for your business. Additionally, you're giving your virtual assistant the time freedom and the space freedom that many
strictly office-based log-in, log-out jobs have.
Next is time savings. The biggest revelation came in the form of time savings for me. As I delegated tasks to my virtual assistant team, I suddenly found myself with extra hours in the day. Those mundane and time-consuming repetitive tasks that used to eat away at my schedule were now expertly handled by my incredible team. Mind you, there was some hand-holding at the start. For simple tasks, it took me about 1 week to train and closely supervise them before I gave them full authority and task implementation responsibility. But for more complicated tasks that had a lot of creative elements in the implementation process, like content writing, video editing, or graphic design, I spent like 2 to 3 weeks with training. Then close supervision before I set the virtual assistant team member on their own learning journey. I always made it a point to hire self-starters, and bonus if they're starting out and they tend to be critical of their own performance. That's the attitude that I usually look for, not the overconfident and the I can do everything and I can do them better than you kind of attitude. So no, you want to find a virtual assistant to build your team with who are based on good attitude. The moment you notice something off in a team member who tends to toot their own horn a lot and doesn't accept criticism,
Run.
you're going to have problems with that VA. Just trust me. Again, the time freedom perk is something that you'll only enjoy in the long run if you hire the right virtual assistant who is a self-starter and self-manager. Someone who is dedicated to their craft and has a good attitude when you're correcting or critiquing their work. They're relatively easier to train, so once they've learned the ropes, you then get to enjoy the time savings perk that I am talking about here. Because your team is doing the work and running your business operations, you gain back your time freedom too. More time to exercise creativity in growing your business, more time to find new clients, more time to spend with your family, and also personal time. Next up is stress reduction. This is the free perk that I love so much. With my virtual assistant team taking care of overwhelming tasks, a weight was lifted off my shoulders, and the stress, the pressure that used to keep me up at night began to fade away. It was like having a team of stress busters working tirelessly behind the scenes, ensuring that I could breathe easy and focus on the things that brought me joy, like spending time with my family. However, because I believe in transparency, I must say that this free perk is not going to be enjoyed by every single client or employer who hires a virtual assistant. We've had clients who hired our team and they're enjoying the stress reduction perk 100%. While we've also had a few, not a lot though, just a handful of clients who were not able to enjoy this perk, unfortunately. That's a small segment of our clientele, saying that having a virtual assistant brought them more stress
From convenience.
That's a hard hit right there. And while it's not good news for me to hear this from a small 2 to 3% of our clientele, I need to make it known. Let me explain. Why do many business owners say they've experienced the free perk of stress reduction from hiring a VA, and why is there a small number of clients or employers who disagree? I've thought about this for a long time, and I think I figured out why this perk is not for everyone across the board. In my experience, those clients or businesses who expect too much from one virtual assistant, they dump a ton of tasks in one go, and then the VA becomes overwhelmed, spreads themselves too thin with their suddenly gigantic workload, and then they quit. This brings the client or the business owner a ton of stress because then they have to look for another VA. Another common reason is that the client wasn't ready to have a VA yet. If you watch our video a few weeks ago, I talked about how having a VA is also acquiring responsibility. You are responsible for that person, and they can only work well if you provide them with enough leadership and support. Unfortunately, for some clients who didn't enjoy the stress reduction perk, some of the common denominators observed from them are, first, they respond to questions too slow. It takes them 1 to 2 weeks to get back to their virtual assistant. And the sad part is, when they do reply, the VA is at crunch time now, trying to meet the deadline. Also, not replying in a timely manner to your VA will drive your VA to quit. Just a heads up. Next, they tend to blame shift. When they're not clear on their instructions, and even when their VA sends clarifications and they reply too late, then the task gets messed up. They tend to shift the blame on their virtual assistant. Again, doing this is going to drive your VA to quit eventually. So word of advice, be super clear on your instructions, check in on your VA every now and then, and you want to set your VA up for success. Never ever shift blame. Instead, adjust your communication style and the way you exercise your leadership. Right. Finally, the third and unfortunately the most common reason why having a VA is causing more stress than convenience is, well, it's obvious. You hired the wrong virtual assistant. Your virtual assistant is not the right fit for you. You are also the wrong client for your VA. I cannot make it any more clear than this. Find another VA who gets you like that. If you're finding yourself repeating your instructions many, many times, and if you want to shift blame on your VA, and your VA still doesn't get what's done that needs to be done despite you responding to their inquiries on time, then it only means that you are maintaining a relationship that doesn't warrant your investment. I promise you there is a rockstar VA or a VA team who is the right fit for you. If you stick with the same VA that you have now who's giving you stress all the time, then get out. The longer you stay there, the problem will never get fixed. So my friend, just set your VA free and stress no more. But when you do find the right VA, and if you're working with the right VA team for you, you'll be surprised with the flexibility and the scalability that you'll get to enjoy for free. You would never have experienced that if you continued working solo. Having a team myself brought me a ton of convenience and reduced my stress levels significantly. Many of the VAs in my team have been working with me at 8.8 for as long as 9 years. That's a long time. This person has been with me when she was in her last few months of her college. We still worked together while I was her side gig when she first landed her full-time job. And finally, when she decided she wanted more time flexibility, she switched to working full-time at 8.8. So see, this is the kind of relationship you want to foster with your virtual assistant. Find one that's the right fit for you and then invest in making the relationship work. Respond to their questions, give them support, be there for your team, and be a leader. As long as you keep these ideals up, you will enjoy the stress reduction perk that you've been promised. Having the right team or virtual assistant means they will adapt to your schedule and giving you the freedom to take breaks, spend time on high value activities, or even enjoy a guilt-free vacation without dragging your laptop with you. So please promise me when you go on vacay, you're not sneaking in a few hours of work at night too, okay?
Don't do that. Don't be that girl.
And as my business grew, my virtual assistant team grew with me. They seamlessly handled increased workloads, adjusted to my evolving needs, and they played a crucial role in 8.8's journey. They even suggested new services and product bundles. So you see, these incredible freebies were right there, waiting to be discovered when I decided to build my virtual assistant team. It was a game changer for me, and I hope it's going to be a game changer for you too. And if you're ready to unlock the same benefits, I encourage you to consider getting a virtual assistant or a virtual assistant team like yesterday already. You will be opening the door to a world of possibilities and enjoying these amazing freebies that can transform your life and your business. So make sure you watch this next video and learn to delegate tasks like a boss.